go.
Sorry.
That's okay. It works. Alright. Suicide is a permanent fix to a temporary problem. Suicide is the taking of one's own life, often due to a mental disorder. According to Merriam-Webster.com, suicide is the act of taking one's own life voluntarily and intentionally, especially by a person of sound mind and years of discretion. In 2012, suicide killed 46,000 Americans, and it is currently the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. Suicide in North Dakota is the second leading cause of death for those who are in between the ages of 15 and 24, ndhealth.gov. Suicide, however, is usually due to some sort of psychiatric illness. According to AFSP.org, almost 90% of those who have taken their lives had some sort of underlying mental illness. However, most of the time these mental disorders were not taken care of at the time of death. The two top disorders that usually lead to suicide are depression and substance abuse. In the United States, nearly 15 million people suffer from depression every single day. It is estimated that depression is the #1 cause of disability in the United States. Studies done by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP, has shown that suicide can also be inherited. An example of this would be identical and fraternal twins. Identical twins are more likely to both commit suicide than fraternal twins would be. It is believed that because identical twins hold a bigger bond, this may be the reason why both, not just one, would commit suicide. It is also shown that since mental disorders are hereditary, this could also lead to more than one suicide in a family. This doesn't mean that because one person in a family commits suicide, the risk of another suicide in the family heightens. This may just mean the rest of the family has a higher vulnerability or lesser resilience towards suicide. Talk therapy may be a good way to reduce suicide rates. The two talk therapies that have been shown to be effective are cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectic behavioral therapy. However, therapy doesn't always work for everyone, but it can be a good way to seeing what would work for you. Another thing that's available is suicide hotlines for anyone who is feeling this way. They specialize in urgent help when time is scarce and help is needed right away. There is also an organization working to help reduce the statistics of suicide. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention holds community walks for awareness, and they also have fundraisers for awareness and also for studying why a suicide occurs and how to lessen the deaths that are caused by suicide. A great way to help deter suicide is being aware that it happens every day and that it's something that should be talked about. Parents, teachers, friends, and the like need to be aware of suicide warnings. These signs may include talk of suicide, mood swings, suddenly not showing interest in activities they used to enjoy, sleeping too much or too little, isolating themselves from their friends and their family, or giving away prized possessions. They can either show up in talk, their behaviors, or their moods. There are plenty more signs, and everyone needs to become aware of these signs. Another thing to become familiar with is what to do if someone is talking about suicide. Make sure that you keep in contact with this person and tell someone whom you trust. Talk to a parent, trust a teacher, or the police if it is necessary. Keep in contact with this person, especially if they are planning on ending their lives at that given moment in time. Don't wait. Let someone know as soon as possible. If you suspect they are going to end their lives, also don't lessen the problem. Don't tell them it will be okay. If they are talking about suicide, something truly is wrong and they are at their very end. They feel as if they are at their very end and they feel like their life is over and that nothing will get better. Tell someone if you suspect the very worst. The biggest thing of all, however, is to be open and talk. If there are feelings of suicide, it needs to be talked about. Finding help is the most important thing to remember. There is help out there and there are people who are willing to help. There are suicide hotlines, walk-in clinics, emergency rooms, and people who care. Find a trustworthy person and be open about the feelings that are happening. Don't be afraid to ask questions and make sure that everything you're feeling is normal. Help is just around the corner. Suicide sometimes may feel like it's the only option, but it's not. Talking about suicide and keeping awareness high may save a life. Sometimes the feeling of knowing one is not alone and someone cares can help a great deal. There is always hope. In order to get the rainbow, you must endure the rain.